Excuse the sun and the hoodie and the hat, but this is the getup for the day. Beautiful day here on the East Coast. We're in this together, humanity. We are in this together, but there are strong messages coming in that I am prompted to deliver. So one of the messages as we advance through this peacefully, we advance through this with spiritual maturity, knowing that it is a spiritual transition that we are going through. That is what ascending is. We are ascending from one state of consciousness into another. We're no longer operating in the state of consciousness that we have known to operate. A lot of us in this generation have been born to families that also were under an indoctrination, and their parents taught them, and it's gotten passed down from generation to generation, not knowing that we were actually living in a state of beingness that did not really enhance and deliver a spiritual contact from one person to another. Spiritually communicating with energy, with true intimacy. Intimacy. Into me see. Many times we were ignored when we were growing up. Our parents were ignored when they were growing up. Our spiritual essence needs this to thrive. And it's never been thrown into such a gauntlet like now. May 2020 is the year where we are literally spiritually awakening. Our third eye is actually being able to see into other people's third eye. It is open. It is with the trees. It is with the birds. It is with the wind. It is with all the elements. This is the music. This is the language that we speak on now. We are part of it, never like before. Some of us on an individual level, but now we're really starting to see each other on an intimate level. Emotion to emotion. Emotional bonds are starting to recognize other emotional bonds and connect, right? We're liberating each other where we're now inspiring each other to start to speak up and open up emotionally with our intimacy, with our sentiment. This means that we're no longer really going to rely on superficial means of communicating with each other, where before we were able to kind of get away with that and just be like, okay, well, I don't need to let this person see my inside, my vulnerability, my emotional makeup, what makes me emotional about something, what makes me sentimental about something, my unexplored abyss of mystery, which is great to have. But with heightened awareness comes more knowledge of these aspects in one another, because it is the one aspect in all of us. It is that bond that connects humanity, that makes us sensitive beings that we are, because we are sensitive. Now, when you operate under energy, because everything is operated under energy. Everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. But when you actually operate under energy, it's just the difference of knowing that you operate under energy. Now, more so than ever, we are walking around conscious, knowing that we are operating energetically. We're no longer going to submit ourselves to a superficial way of being. We're going to pay attention more to what our body and our soul needs. We're not just going to let our body be taken by the narrative of someone else, which is what was very prevalent in the years that we've growing up, because this is something that we were just not ready for as a humanity, as a species. But we have reached critical mass where now we can no longer walk our spiritual path without recognizing that it is actually spiritual. So when we have a certain emotion, we can no longer really ignore it the way we did, because we realize that that emotion has a thought pattern of its own. That emotion that has clung on to us, that is literally feeding fear into our system. Our system is a machine, and all of a sudden it has a component that doesn't really belong there, like anger or sadness or anything that is really not in unison with the high vibrations of love and gratitude and harmony and being in tune with oneself. We have something now, and we're like, I have something. Where before we can suppress that something, maybe because we were taught that we could. But now we really kind of can't, because we're ascending, and in the fifth dimension, we cannot have any broken aspects in us just clinging on to us, going along for the ride without really addressing it. We're going to swat it off as if it was like a gnat or a fly. We're going to notice it that obvious as if a fly landed on your face. Sadness is in my heart. Let me really address it. Let me no longer ignore it. I'm ignoring it. Wait a minute. I'm noticing that I'm ignoring it. I used to be able to ignore this back in the day and just pretend that it'll go away, and sticking it in my subconscious, sticking it in the archives, the basement of the consciousness. No, now it's more prevalent, more obvious, more let's put our light to it, more let's look at it, because we want to continue to ascend and rise in harmony. So we cannot have this, right? It's actually interrupting our flow. Let me address it. This is a popular thing now. It's becoming popular. This is the message that I was told to give. It's popular now to be vulnerable. It's popular because in 5 minutes you can integrate something that would have taken you maybe 5 years just because you decided to stick it in the basement. You decided to stick it under the rug. No, we're actually not sticking it under the rug. Or if some of us are in different parts of our awakening, some of us have stuck some stuff under the rug and we're starting to pull that rug out and we're like, okay, let me look at this thing that I buried under the rug for a while. Let me finally look at it. It's called rejection. It's called fear of not succeeding. It's called fear of not being accepted. It's called my throat chakra is blocked. I was never allowed to voice my opinion. I didn't get love when I stated my opinion. You know, I got made fun of. Let's look at that. Quickly now. We do it quickly. We look at things quickly, and we integrate it back into our whole being. It's complete again. Once we look at it, integrate it, love it, say, oh my God, I can't believe I banned you into the shadows. I can't believe I banned you into the shadows. You're part of me. This little side of me that, you know, was self-conscious about being rejected, that I may have eaten my way to feel better. Now I'm cutting the middleman. Now I'm no longer eating my way just to feel better about this one little insecurity feeling that I've carried with me for the last 5 years. No, because I addressed the feeling that just needed love and attention and recognition. I integrated it back into my whole self. Now I don't need that coping mechanism of overeating just to comfort that side that was always so shy and so ignored and so not looked at. When these things get integrated, we fly, we ascend. It's natural, it's healing, and we're doing it now because it's popular. It's going to become popular if it's not popular with you already, because maybe you are in a place where the audience that I speak to mostly is awoken, but if you're just waking up now, just know that it is not just you telling you this. It is your spirit calling you into action, to start being more kind to yourself, to love yourself into completion, into wholesomeness, to not walk around like you're just a bunch of different puzzle pieces all scattered and lost. No, we want to walk around like the full, complete puzzle. And if there's a piece that's missing, we're going to integrate it because it's popular too. We just do it now, right? It's fine. What's the big deal? It wasn't popular back in the day. Well, I know when I went to school, it wasn't popular to not bully. It was popular to bully. I was bullied. And I learned from it. Right? I learned to stand up for myself. It took me a lot of years, but I learned it. There were no anti-bullying laws. And now people won't stand for it. Now there's anti-bullying. So it's the same concept, the same analogy. Use it as a metaphor. It's popular now to look at my feelings. It's popular to address myself and what I'm missing and what I feel sad in and what I feel insecure about. Because we all have our flaws or had our flaws, but we just didn't accept it or integrate it back into our normal everyday lives. Sometimes we walk around like we're half a person just because we're just shoving all these things that aren't accepted or too self-conscious about not being able to be successful, and then I can't pay the bills, and all of a sudden that makes me less of a man or less of a woman. Listen, you're okay. Don't ban a side of yourself in the shadows and your inner child to make suffer even more if you can't integrate it, because you know now it's popular that you can. It's popular. This is the connection for us to move into ascension with a swift ease, with flow, with like being a chameleon. You change from one state to another. Every soul cycle has different times of dying to the old self and rebirthing the new self. We're constantly transitioning like a caterpillar into a butterfly many, many, many times. This is the trend. This is what's going on right now, what we have to start becoming more comfortable with, more familiar with. Because if you have an entity that is detached from you, but still attached from you, but you treat it like it's not you. You treat it like, oh, no, that's a part of me that's not accepted. Let me just pretend like it's not part of me. It's going to continue to get louder and louder. It's just going to get louder until you integrate the lesson, until you learn the lesson. It never goes away until you integrate it. That's why I'm a shadow worker. And for this in unison to happen at a mass scale, critical mass, if we all do it together, we're all holding each other. I'm holding energy for anybody who's doing it now. If I go through it, they're holding energy for me just by the awareness of it, just by knowing that this exists. I can't believe I was walking around like I was half a person. So fragmented. Why was I doing that? Maybe because I was taught that. No longer. It is over. This is what ascension is. We are literally changing our state of being, and the way we've always just maybe envisioned or imagined or dreamt of is actually here. This is ascension. This is fifth dimension where things are just abundant and it comes to you. There is no manifesting here. You don't have to manifest. You're in unison with all. One is all with you. You are one with all and one is all with you. It's a symphony. It's a song. It's an orchestra. It all goes together. All the pieces have to be in functioning order to work together like a symphony. If the bass is off, the whole thing is off. If the one little note is off, it doesn't make a harmonic melody, and everything is vibration, frequency, affecting your thoughts. Your thoughts then affect the way you act in life. The way you act in life then affects the person that you're with and the way they act in life. We're all connected. It's all one. We have to address these entities that take sometimes such a large space in our heart that it literally governs our lives. Now we just look at it and it's so simple. We can literally integrate it little by little every day. Of what we already are. So mind the energy that you keep, mind the company that you keep and the energy they keep, because you become like the 5 people you surround yourself with the most. And it's very important for you to be able to discipline yourself and what your spirit is telling you, and be okay with shutting the door on energies that no longer serve you, even if that means in a relationship. We have to isolate and know what our heart is telling us. So dare to follow your heart and it will lead you. It always leads you to the right discovery of what is for your greatest ascension, for your greatest evolution, for the highest version of yourself. This is progression. We're here to evolve. We're not here to stay the same. It could be bumpy. It could be smooth. Usually it's bumpy before it becomes smooth. But yeah, that's the message. Integrate the entity or else it'll become part of you. It'll linger on you, becomes a weight, and it, it's like wearing those things around your ankles and walking. Those weights, those workout weights around your ankles. Drop those weights, and you'll be walking more swiftly. You'll be walking just smooth. You'll be gliding through this life. Because it's popular now to integrate anything that made you feel like a victim, that anything that hurt you, anything that made you feel vulnerable. It's popular to actually show it. Because you're showing the rest of the world how in charge and how intelligent and how conscious you are when something is off about you, on you. Flick it off, love it, say thank you. I'm sorry I banned you into the shadows. I love you, you're part of me. You're just an experience that happened when I was however many years old. Now I integrate it back and I'm lighter. I'm no longer holding that weight, because that weight was just an illusion because I held on for it so long. I held on to it for so long. You understand? So this is what happens. You start to create more momentum. You start to create more charge. Energy starts going more forward, movement, and you start to move into the ascension process. You keep going into other states of consciousness, and that consciousness invites you and it starts attracting other things that are like it. So you just become lighter in vibration and frequency. You're a whole new person, and you're able to die to yourself and not stay the same, so that you can swiftly ascend to these changing times. These changing times are only here because there is a rise in consciousness. It's not the other way around. We're not all of a sudden victims of the changing times. We created these changing times. We created these changing times. These changing times didn't happen to us. We've asked for it. We asked for this. And this is the way it's showing. It's showing this way. I love you. Integrate the self, because now it's popular.